a river written in fire and verse in India's oldest hymns. A river flows glorious, mighty, divine. But where is it now? For millennia, Indian sages have bathed in its sacred waters, prayed at its altars, and celebrated its life-giving floods. They called her Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, language, and purity, and they sang of her glory in the Rig Veda, a collection of 1,028 hymns that formed the bedrock of Hindu scripture some 3,500 years ago. But the most glorious of these hymns tell of a mighty river, one that does not flow in modern maps, one that appears to have vanished. We know little about the dawn of civilization in South Asia. For most of human history, this region was rural and tribal, home to nomadic hunters and small farming settlements. That changed around 7,000 years ago when villages began to grow into towns and eventually cities. This became known as the Indus Valley Civilization. Named for the great river it grew beside, this culture thrived in what is now Pakistan and northwest India until 4,000 years ago when it collapsed. Then for over 3,000 years, there is almost no trace of settled life here. No cities, no organized states, only the faint memory of the past, buried deep beneath the sands of the Thar Desert. Then suddenly, around 1,900 years ago, people started living in this region once again. Village by village, town by town, they built new cities in the shadow of the Himalayas. But the Indus wasn't there to help them build their lives anymore. Instead, they followed the faded course of another river, one whose waters ran between the Yamuna and Sutlej, close enough to nourish fields and villages, but never too close to flood them. This river became a lifeline for the ancients. They made it the mother of all India, calling her the goddess who flowed through their lives, giving and protecting them. They called her the best of mothers, the best of rivers, the best of gods, and she remained a constant in their lives for 2,000 years, guiding their agriculture, blessing their prayers, and shaping their beliefs. But somewhere between the hymns of the Rig Veda and the epics of ancient India, something happened. The rains stopped falling, the river ran dry, and the goddess disappeared. In fact, she seems to have vanished completely. No ancient site remains. No city walls, no palace foundations, not even a single brick. Yet the hymns speak of entire civilizations blossoming beside her banks. So where did they go? Did they simply fade away, like the river? Or are there lost cities hidden beneath the sands of time? The answer, it turns out, is both. Today, we see the ghosts of rivers crisscrossing the northwestern provinces of India. These tributaries of the Indus and Ganges have long since dried up, leaving behind cracked clay beds and crumbling ravines. Some wash away entirely during the monsoon, only to reappear as gushing torrents in the spring melt. But others remain stubbornly dry. The largest of these is the Gagahakra, which flows intermittently across the border into Pakistan, where it is known as the Hakra to the west. It cuts through the heart of the Thar Desert. To the east, it skirts the edge of the fertile Indo-Gangetic plain, and between these two regions, it leaves behind nothing but dust storms and memories. At first glance, this ghostly riverbed gives no hint of the ecological catastrophe that has been. Now supporting little more than scraggly desert grasses, the Hakra Valley nonetheless preserves evidence of dramatic floods from just 8,000 years ago. When the last ice age ended, glaciers melted across the northern hemisphere, unleashing a torrent of fresh water into the oceans. Around the same time, the Asian and African continents split, forming the Arabian Sea and redirecting ancient monsoon winds. Together, these forces created an Eden in the Thar Desert, leading to the Hakra River, which peaked at 1,200 cubic kilometers of water per year, equivalent to the entire flow of the Thames. This mighty stream watered the dry landscape, nurturing what would become the Indus Valley civilization. But sometime after 4,000 years ago, the Gagahakra went dry, leaving behind a fractured network of salty lakes and seasonal streams. It seems likely that tectonic shifts in the Arabian seabed redirected monsoon rains away from the western provinces. At the same time, a shift in global climate patterns led to an epic drought in the Thar Desert. So, while the Gagahakra continued to flow fitfully for another few thousand years, its volume shrank until it could no longer support great cities or vast farmlands. By the time the Vedic hymns were written, around 1,900 years ago, the river had shrunk to a trickle. But instead of fading away, the people of ancient India remembered it as a blessing, calling it Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, language, and purity. They believed her waters could purify everything, making it a prime candidate for a ritual bathing site. And in their ancient fires, they kept the memory of her flowing. To this day, thousands of Indians gather beside dry riverbeds and crumbling ravines to celebrate her. There, they perform Vedic rituals, hoping to reawaken her from her slumber. Among them is a former Prime Minister of India, who believes the Saraswati must be brought back to life. According to the legend, she will rise again, carrying the seeds of a new civilization. But can this really happen? For decades, scientists dismissed talk of a dry river rising as unscientific fantasy. How could a major river magically reappear? But new discoveries suggest it may have already done so. Since the collapse of the Indus Valley civilization, the Gagahakra has carved a new path through the desert, although no one knows exactly where it begins. Emerging from the Thar's shifting sands, it meanders across the border into India, where it occasionally joins the mighty Sutlej and feeds its network of canals. Some researchers think the goddess Saraswati may have been flowing this way all along, concealed by ever-shifting dunes. Satellite imagery from the 1970s revealed a dried channel running beneath the sands of the Thar, suggesting that the river may have been buried for thousands of years. Further satellite data has confirmed the presence of this subterranean stream, which reappears in several places before joining the Sutlej, near the modern city of Firasp. If true, this discovery could rewrite history. All across the northwestern provinces of India, ancient sites lie abandoned beside the Gagahakra. During the height of the Indus Valley civilization, these places teemed with people. Scholars believe they were pilgrimage sites dedicated to the river goddess. As the Gagahakra dried up, these sites were abandoned, and the pilgrims moved to new holy rivers like the Ganges and Yamuna. But if the underground Saraswati still flows today, it raises an extraordinary possibility. Did the ancient Indians discover this long ago? Did they realize that their vanished river was alive beneath the sands? And if so, did they return to these sites to worship her in secret? Today, many of these old sites are in ruins. Ancient steps lead down to dry riverbeds, and crumbling terraces hide among the dunes. It's hard to say if they have always been here, if they were rediscovered by modern pilgrims, or if they are part of a grand conspiracy to revive the lost Saraswati. But one thing is clear. The dry riverbed continues to attract worshippers. Every morning, men, women, and children gather beside these ruins to pray. They perform ancient fire rituals, trying to light their ghee with a single matchstick. If successful, they believe it shows that the goddess still blesses their devotion. Others take a ritual bath in the dry riverbed, or bury flowers in the cracked clay. Still others simply walk barefoot across the crumbled banks, tracing the path of the sacred river. This is especially popular at the village of Nor, where a wide ravine has become the center of the Saraswati revival movement. Here, the dry riverbed splits into a series of sandy washes, creating a landscape that looks much like a flooded river delta. At the center of this delta stands a broken pillar engraved with Vedic symbols, which locals believe marks the exact spot where the goddess disappeared. Each morning, hundreds of pilgrims come here to touch the stone and pray for her return. Some believe that this pilgrimage alone will bring them good fortune in this life and the next. Others come to perform Vedic fire rituals, chanting ancient prayers to appease the gods, and some come to bathe in the dry riverbed, believing that its healing waters will cure their illnesses and renew their spirits. Among them is a young boy named Nishyant, who is visiting the river with his grandmother. He watches as she pours water from a clay pot onto the hot stones and whispers his own prayers into the dry riverbed. When asked what he is saying, he replies in a pure, sweet voice, "I'm asking Mother Saraswati to return. We need her to water our fields and bring life back to this land. Whether the Saraswati will ever flow again is impossible to say, but in the meantime, people continue to search for her." In 2010, a team of geologists discovered a vast reservoir of groundwater beneath the dry riverbed. Could this be the missing river, hiding just beneath the surface? Or is this, too, another mirage? As the sun sets over the northwestern provinces of India, the desert wind picks up, whipping across the dry riverbed and sending sand swirling into the air. Against this backdrop, it's easy to imagine the Saraswati River as a spirit, flowing through the sands of time, appearing and disappearing at will. Just as the Indus Valley civilization rose and fell without a trace, so too might the mighty Saraswati, leaving behind nothing but wind-blown dunes and whispered legends. And so the hunt for the lost river goes on. Government officials are linking existing waterways in the hopes of finding the source of the If they succeed, they believe they can bring the river back to life and fulfill the ancient prophecy of her return. For better or worse, the myth and memory of the Saraswati River will continue to shape the landscape, politics, and identity of northwestern India for generations to come. Some rivers flow with water, others flow with memory, and the river Saraswati flows with both. Thank you for watching.